Baseball, am I right, Gary? Am I right? You kind of alluded to this yesterday about how just weird baseball is, how it makes no sense whatsoever. Patrick Corbin just got his fourth win of the season on August 27th. He pitched really well. I mean, a 2-hitter against the Yankees. I'm at a loss for words, man.
You know, Jake, this game, I don't even like to chalk it up to just baseball because I think that it almost sets the tone that it's random.
Oh, yeah.
I would just say you just can't predict what the Yankees are going to do on any given day. Sometimes they're going to look like a really good team. They do all the little things. The fundamentals of baseball are just shored up in a way that just makes you happy inside. You go to bed excited, especially to see them the next day. But for those of you Yankee fans who do watch every game, we should know better. And I know a lot of you do. You can turn them on and watch them play the Washington Nationals against Patrick Corbin, and they can make Patrick Corbin look like Fernando Valenzuela. And that's exactly what happened today. They were talking left and right about his cutter, how good that pitch was, how good the slider was, the depth on that pitch. And it's so interesting. It reminds me a lot of that game that we played against the Chicago White Sox in that series we played against the White Sox earlier this year where we didn't take care of business. And everyone said, well, that's just baseball. And I actually bit back on it. I said it wasn't. I absolutely disagreed. I think when you have aspirations to go outrun good teams like the Baltimore Orioles or any other team in baseball, you want to have the best record possible and have home field throughout the postseason and hopefully go win it. Well, Jake, you need to go out and take care of business. The Yankees have not taken care of business against teams below 500 or close to it. And by the way, I wanted to pull up some numbers with the New York Yankees against lefties. The Yankees this year are hitting below league average, which is interesting because this team against lefties is hitting 236. And I told you, Jake, there are a lot of teams that have built their rosters, especially as they head to the postseason, with lefty arms. The Arizona Diamondbacks have done this to prepare for the Dodgers. And seemingly, if the Diamondbacks run into us, they're preparing themselves for us as well. So it's just interesting to see how we make players look a lot better than what they are. And yet this team seems to get locked in against better teams and rise to the occasion. So I would like to see more competitiveness against teams that frankly have no business on the field with us, young teams. I know Washington, you mentioned that they've got some guys to be excited about, Cruz, right? Wood. That's all exciting. They're nowhere near in terms of development to the point to go beat Gerrit Cole and the New York Yankees. It shouldn't happen.
No, it absolutely should not happen. This shouldn't. Anytime you have your ace, the whole point of having an ace is that's the game that you should probably end up winning, especially during the regular season when it's not lined up like the postseason. You're not putting ace against ace and they cancel out. You're going ace against maybe the fifth pitcher on the other team, or in this case, it doesn't matter where Patrick Corbin is on the other team because he's just not a good pitcher.
He's the worst pitcher in baseball.
I mean, one of them. And it's just like, today was tough. But you know what made it a little bit better?
What was that?
There are a few things. First off, we had 2 new members. So big shout outs to Rich Squires, field level member, Armando Gomez, second deck member. We appreciate that.
Shout out Armando.
We also, as you can see in the crawl below the ticker, I don't know why I always call it crawl. I guess either one works. We are now on audio. That's right. We are now on all podcast platforms. So obviously, we want you guys to hang out with us on YouTube. We're not saying ditch YouTube.
I would prefer it.
Yes. But those people out there that are watching and know I'm going to go in my car and I don't have YouTube Premium, so I can't hold YouTube open without keeping the entire app of your phone open, not locking your phone, all of that, you can switch on over to audio. And we're on all the podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts. Just type in Yankees Unloaded. The link will be in the description below. Very excited to be everywhere because, that's what we're trying to do. But also want to give a shout out to Juan Soto, kid from LI, Carlos Marrero, Jeff J, and Ed W for being field level members. And I want to splash into the mailbag. We got 2 mailbag questions. We'll do this real quick because we got a lot of stuff to cover. But Ed W., if you think it's a worthwhile topic, I'd like your view on whether the 4-5 should be Wells/Stanton or vice versa, or maybe something situational. A lot of factors in my head: DP percentage, whiff/strikeout rate, better situational hitting with Soto and Judge on base. Ed W. Okay. Gary, I'll let you answer that right off the rip, and I'll join you afterwards.
So I'm just going to look at strengths and weaknesses. I think a lot of times when the Yankees look at what Austin Wells does well, no pun intended, and what Giancarlo Stanton excels at is destroying left-handed pitching. That's his job. He's supposed to punish left-handed pitching, and that's how I go 4-5. I don't overthink it. I don't take guys out of lineup. I simply do a switcheroo. You call it a platoon. You can call it whatever you want. Face a lefty, I put Giancarlo Stanton in the 4 spot. Austin Wells, in my opinion, has enough pedigree in this league. You can put him in the 5 spot. I think he does the job just fine. We face a right-handed pitcher. I move Giancarlo to the 5 spot. I put Austin Wells as the lefty in the 4.
I like that. So you know me with my stats and everything, because this is just how I am. This is just who I am. I take splits, and I want to see who's best in certain positions, right? So if we're looking at Austin Wells, when he hits in the 4 hole, he hits 338. He has a 920 OPS. He has 3 home runs. He has 17 RBIs. Okay. That's him in the 4 hole. And he also has a 390 batting average with balls in play. It's the highest in any spot. Then you look at Stanton. Stanton is hitting 215 in the cleanup spot. He has 6 home runs, 17 ribbies, 47 strikeouts. He has a 650 OPS. But when he hits in the 5th spot, he has 16 homers. He is hitting 257, a 312 on base percentage as opposed to a 281, and an 884 OPS. To me, the obvious choice is Wells at 4, Stanton at 5. It's that simple because stats make it that way. And if you want to ask me, what about the, we're talking about the sample size, right? Well, it's not identical necessarily, but Stanton has, and you would think his stats would be better if he had fewer opportunities in the 5 hole. No, he actually has more opportunities in the 5 hole with 175 at-bats to 149 in the 4 hole. So I don't think Stanton is a great cleanup hitter. I think everybody would agree with that because he's hitting 650 OPS. That's not good. 215 batting average. But in the 5 hole, Stanton is more like what Stanton is for the year. He has a 287 batting average with balls in play. This is not somebody that's ever going to hit 300 again or anywhere near it. But we'll take 257 and an 884 OPS. So that's how I would answer that. 5 Stanton, 4 Wells.
That's fair.
And then we move on to the last question here. Juan Cepeda asks, what do you think are the chances Soto goes to the Mets, and how high will Cohen go? I'm just going to say this. I think the Mets have a very slim chance of getting Soto. I think he goes to the Yankees. I think he stays with the Yankees. And I think Cohen will go high, but I don't know if it will even matter. Like, I really just don't see him going to the Mets, but I think he's willing to go up to 600 million and, maybe a little bit more than that. But I don't think it's going to be anything like 800 or anything that people would post on Twitter as just kind of like a joke, but half serious.
Okay, I think that's totally fair. If you look at what happened this past offseason, because this is where I'm going with this. Yamamoto was a free agent. The Yankees wanted him, right? Cashman, Cohen, everyone was flying private jets out to Japan, just looking like buffoons. They were looking stupid, right? Getting overzealous about this prospect. And everyone thought Steve Cohen and the Mets would just blow every offer out the water. We assumed that Yamamoto's offer would be hovering around 400 million. And then everyone said we can really see him either going to the Mets. Maybe he considers the Yankees a little bit, but the Mets are going to be the highest offer. Dodgers are probably the most ideal spot. And long behold, the Dodgers outbid them. Interesting how that ended up working out. I think people put too much weight on Steve Cohen, too much expectation on Steve Cohen to be the highest bidder. I don't necessarily just draw that conclusion because his track record says he doesn't do that. He maybe has a really high payroll, but he doesn't necessarily go out there, see the big prospect, see the big free agent, and just throw a big bag at that guy. He didn't do it with Aaron Judge when you would expect him to do that, right? A lot of teams just haven't done that. So I'm going to say the chances are about 20% that he goes to the Mets. And I know that's probably a little higher than what people were expecting me to say, but in general, what player is there a better guy really to invest in than a soon to be 26-year-old free agent who's a 300 hitter? He will be a Hall of Famer. He'll probably hit 700 home runs in his career. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame with the team he signs with this offseason. So it's a sure bet. And then also the reason that number's at 20, and I do expect him to land back with the Yankees at 80%. But Jake, when you're talking about what's happening with Juan Soto, I mean, we're talking about a player that's now marketable as a Yankee. He knows this, right? So I just conclude that he wants to be back with the Yankees. We're not going to be the highest bidder, but we need to be close enough. And I say he lands back in New York.
Yeah, I think he lands back in New York as well. And I think Steve Cohen is, kind of that friend that tells you how much money he has all the time. And, won't even split a check or I'll just Venmo you. Like, no. Like,
he's got the fake Rolex.
Yeah. Yep.
I see.
Yeah.
The fake Submariner. I see how it is.
Exactly. And the fake Jordans too, to go with it.
Oh no, the fake Jordans are a no-go. I got duped one time with some fake Jordans. Yes, it was bad. I don't even want to talk about it. Really embarrassing day for me. I actually showed up to school in them, and
we call that Slender Man.
Yeah,
because they always
really bad.
Because they always they botch the logo and everything.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, so we appreciate you guys throwing in the mailbag. Obviously, mailbag is always open for our field level members. Just be sure to put mailbag in all uppercase letters in the comments section, and we will get to it. And if we ever miss it, just let us know. It's no big deal. We'll get to it the next day. But yeah, we try our best to get to all of them. Let's we'll move on here. We talked about Patrick Corbin and the twilight zone of a game this was. Trevino over Wells. I mean, at what point, Gary, is enough? Like, Trevino has not been good since he's come back. He's now at 300 on base percentage, so it keeps going down. His slugging is 390. Okay. Which now it's approaching Volpe and Verdugo range. And he's hitting 231. I don't understand how you're keeping out a guy who's hitting 256, a 347 on base percentage, 426 slugging, guy that hits for power. He hit a freaking home run last night. I understand it's not going to necessarily mean if he had those two at bats over Trevino, it doesn't necessarily mean that like they win the game.
Right.
But I mean, we just went over it. Stanton's not great in the cleanup spot. A lot better at 5. Who knows? Maybe you put Wells at 4 today and, he comes through in one of those situations. I don't know. What I do know is that I'm tired of seeing Trevino in the lineup. I'm absolutely sick of it. And I don't think that he's good enough in anything against, when it comes to Wells to justify even playing catcher over him the rest of the year. Let's be honest here. We've talked about this. Wells is young. Okay. Wells doesn't need to be saved. Okay. We don't need to hear that. There's about 29 games left, 30 games. Like, Wells should play every single game from here on out. It's that simple. And if you want to say, well, I don't want him playing every single game because I want him to be ready for the postseason. Guess what? He is ready for the postseason. You know why? Because he's barely been used. He's not even right now.
What's he tracking to play in terms of games played?
I'm glad you asked. His projected games played right now is 111.
It's a shame based on how he's played. Jake, I just feel like we're past the point of trying to explain or just provide explanations as to why this isn't the right way to do it. It's very clear that the Yankees believe that Jose Trevino is a good enough catcher to make sure he finds his way to the field. I don't even think this is about the bat in any way. I know they've kind of hidden it as a platoon, but Aaron Boone did say that he's expecting Wells to start tomorrow against a left-handed pitcher. But I guess my thing is, when people talk about this being a platoon, we've talked about it, right? Trevino's hitting 190 against lefties, and that's where he predominantly plays against. So I guess where I'm at with this is that I just don't see how Jose Trevino is a good enough catcher. I know the analytics say that his framing is excellent, but given the comparison between the two players in terms of framing, we're talking about the difference between a player who's in the 99th percentile versus a player who's in the 95th percentile in terms of framing. And I understand when people say, yes, Gerrit Cole, maybe a Nestor Cortez, maybe a Carlos Rodon, perhaps these pitchers are asking for Jose Trevino to catch them. And this is my bite back. I don't believe any of those pitchers. I would say Nestor Cortez is the one guy who's really given us an output as of late, but there's not really any guy in our rotation right now that has enough pedigree in 2024 through 30 starts, or should be 30 starts by now, where they get to tell us who they're pitching to. Because the gap between Austin Wells in terms of production and Trevino are so wide that I think you need to forego those wishes. That's my take on it. So I totally get it. Players are going to like throwing to one guy over the next, right? You saw Maldonado a lot in Houston with Gerrit Cole. He loved that pairing. But you know what? When you throw 230 innings, your ERA is 175, and your team is raking regardless because you don't really have an offensive catcher to begin with, that's absolutely fine by me. By all means, do it. But the New York Yankees, we're a team that wants to put a premium on scoring runs. And we're not only that, in my opinion, Austin Wells is a better catcher than Jose Trevino. Full stop. I just think he's better as the ultimate package. You saw yesterday he changed the game with a throw at third base, back picking. So where I'm at with this, we're past the point where we're selling anything. I think this is our expectation. If Jose Trevino's healthy, they're going to split time. You're not going to have any expectation of who's playing.
And I'll always say this. When it comes to his splits, it's so ridiculous to me. He has 45 at-bats against left-handed pitching.
Mm-hmm.
He has 224 against right-handed. That's not a fair comparison. I don't care that he's hitting 200. By the way, another thing I want to point out, he struggled for the longest time with, just being, unlucky, hitting atom balls. We talked about it, right? At the beginning of the year. A lot of those could have been against left-handed pitching. You know what I mean? Like so I guess what I'm saying is, how many lefties has he really faced since he started really coming into his own? That's what skews the stat. And I feel like Aaron Boone and the Yankees should have analytics to show that it skews the stat. And it shows that, okay, hey, yeah, he went up against these lefties back in May. That's not even the same hitter anymore. So
it also seems like Wells comes into games in the middle of the game as well. He did it today.
All the time.
They said they wanted to keep him fresh, but Austin Wells eventually today was behind the plate and took a foul ball right off his Johnson. So when is it that you told me that this player, we want to keep him fresh? It's about health. Well, if it's about health, why am I seeing Austin Wells then in the 6th inning? Well, they said, well, situationally, we wanted him in there. Well, yeah, that makes total sense. But situationally, we want him in there in the 1st through the 5th as well. So let's start doing that. But it's clear that Aaron Boone has his mind made up because this is Boone's decision. I know people say that analytics are what's pulling the strings here. There's no analytic to sell this. So I just think in general, Aaron Boone this is his call. He's doing it based on what he thinks and what he feels. And we're going to have to live with these results. I don't know if it's going to work, but I will tell you though, Jake, if we end up outrunning Baltimore, it's probably in our best interest that Wells isn't playing so much, but that's the thing. You don't know if you're going to outrun Baltimore. We're up 1 game in the division. Yes, we have a weak schedule, but Jake, we don't play very well against teams below 500. So nothing's a sure thing. I want the best possible players out there. Yes, we're maximizing health, but we're playing a dangerous game here, not having the best players out there.
No, I hear you. And by the way, I didn't know run values by pitch type was a thing for batters. So this is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Wells last year had a negative for most of them and a 0 for a sinker. So he had positive for a sweeper. He had a run value of 2, but he only saw 9 of them, and a 1 for a split fingered, which he had 22 split fingered thrown at him. So that's not really saying much. 77 fastballs. He had a 1 run value, but the rest were negative, were 0, right? Cutter, -3. So this year, -1 four-seam fastball, believe it or not, but he's still hitting 250, 484 slugging. Like, that's fine. -3 changeup. A changeup has really been the problem for him. 198 pitches.
And this is Trevino?
No, this is Wells.
Okay, I see. But the thing is, though, this is not, regardless of what Wells and Trevino are doing offensively, this has nothing to do with the bat. If this was about the bat.
No, this is just fun. This is just
that's
Yankees
fun.
Unloaded being fun and throwing out stats that people can now just say at the water cooler. But he's got a 2-run value against sliders. He's got a 2-run value against sinkers. He's got a 1-run value against cutters. And he's got a 3 against split fingered and 2 against sweepers. A 0.
So doesn't like the changeup, is what you're saying.
That's literally the only pitch that he's struggling with, as opposed to last year where this guy had -1, -1, 0, -3, -1, 1. Like, this guy has gotten better, is my point. And it's obvious he's growing. And all you can do, and this is, again, why I even brought this up, is that clearly this guy just continues to get better. And all you're doing is essentially limiting how good he can be, because you're like, yeah, Trevino. So I'm just tired of it, Gary. I really am. And you can't give me the whole, well, Trevino's glove, right? Because he's got a 93rd percentile fielding run value.
It can't have that much of an effect. Gerrit Cole just went out there and got shelled against rookies. Okay. Yeah. Washington's a young up and coming team, but they're not supposed to be ready for 2 years. So this idea, if Gerrit Cole's going to show up here, look the way he did, and I don't want to blame Gerrit Cole's start on Jose Trevino, but it's very clear that just because you put Trevino out there, it doesn't just unlock these pitchers. They've thrown very well to Austin Wells as well. So I just don't see it. I don't like the designated catchers. I'm perfectly okay with it if you've got like an R.A. Dickey in your rotation and your guy can't catch a knuckleball. But when you're talking about a player who, if he played all year and we could project him to 145 games, not 160, that's fine. 145 games, 140 games at catcher, I can live with that. Austin Wells is a 20 home run player. That's a really good player in this league. I want to give the kid the opportunity to go do that, because it makes him a better player. It makes us a better team. Unfortunately, they're not doing it, and we're going to have to hope for the best here.
Yeah, we're going to get into Jazz Chisholm here with the errors. Real quick, though, I wanted to hit on something that I thought was insane. Jose Trevino is batting 147 against fastballs. He has a -6 run value against fastballs. I think that's
well. They did say hitting the fastball is the hardest thing to do in sports, and Jose Trevino really puts that to display.
Yeah, 0 on a sinker, 0 on changeup. He's got a 2 on a slider, -1 on curveball, -2 on sweeper. So, yeah, he's not doing all that well.
That's no disrespect. Those are numbers. We're reading numbers. We're presenting information, and you guys can do it what you will with that information.
But they deserve to have the information.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
So at least he's better than last year. I mean, last year he had a 257 on base percentage, which is probably the worst thing that could have ever happened to this offense this year. That's worse than any point Verdugo, any point LeMahieu. That's terrible. And he had 210. Now he's saying 231, 300 on base. But I hate to be that guy. I'm just tired of seeing him in the lineup over Wells. And it's dumb. He's 31. Wells is 6 years younger. It's Wells' time. Let Wells cook, essentially. We move on to Jazz Chisholm here. Okay, Jazz, with the bat, since he's been back, he's been kind of just Jazz, right? You know, obviously not the crazy pace that he was on, hitting home run after he had like 7 home runs in 12 days or whatever. Not quite that, but he's been really good at the plate, and you know, then some. Now, in the field, he's had some wow moments for sure.
Definitely.
But there is one concern. It's not the fielding errors, it's the throwing errors. And I feel like I can kind of understand this because when I made an error at second base or short, I feel like it would eat me up. I think it can be a mental thing. And, you start overthinking everything and then you're not looking in your glove and all of a sudden it goes under your legs and all that. And it's like, I think we're starting to see Jazz kind of really going through the growing pains. Like we just assumed, oh, he's just natural at third. I think it's fair to let him go through these growing pains. I mean, if you want him to be the third baseman, he has to navigate through this. It's not going to be perfect. It's not sunshine and rainbows.
Definitely.
It is the hot corner for a reason. So he's finally feeling what it's like to be a major league third baseman. And that's not just like the batted balls, but that's also the mentality. You have to keep yourself even keel, just like any spot in the field. But I think they've been eating him up a little bit. I wanted to bring it up. I don't think it's necessarily something that I think is going to cripple his chances of being a third baseman long term. But Gary, I think this is just one of those, when you talk about peaks and valleys, I think this is one of those valleys he's going through, and I think he is going to be okay. And I will say this: I think DJ LeMahieu has done a terrible job when he's throwing over to first. LeMahieu's like, that kid in Babe Ruth who won't get off first base. It's like, that's clearly an air-mailed throw. Like, why is your foot still? Why are you trying to stretch out? You're not getting to that. He's done that a few times, Gary, where, yes, it's a bad throw, but it didn't have to go into the dugout and cost, another base, so that's the thing with me. I'm not too worried about it. I just think it, like we talked about off air, it just needs to be addressed. It needs to be out there. People need to know that it's happening and people want to talk about it because, this is a show where we believe in, nuanced look of baseball. And we're not going to just beat around the bush about things. We're going to call everybody out. Love Jazz. I can say I love Jazz and also criticize his fielding as of late. And he has not been great as of late.
Yeah, I mean, he's made 8 errors as a Yankee at third base. His fielding percentage is below 900. Now, I don't want to pick on him. I want to bring up the numbers, and I'm going to compare kind of what's going on because people need to remember Jazz Chisholm was put at third base. He's best at second base, and he's also good in the outfield, right? Gleyber Torres, of course, long story short, didn't move from second base. They put the supreme athlete at third, and like you mentioned, Jazz Chisholm's looked really good in terms of his ceiling at third base. It's nice. He's got the arm. It's clear. He's got a cannon. He's got range, and he has a smooth glove. But as you mentioned, the throwing has been bad. And since that elbow sprain, his throwing is essentially fallen off a cliff. But I want to compare what Jazz Chisholm's doing with the difference between a really good golfer and a golfer that's new at the sport. Sometimes the new golfer is going to go to the golf course and they're going to hit a baby cut all day. And that's great. But you know what, Jake? They don't know why they stopped hitting the baby cut. They're going to show up to the 15th tee box and they're going to hit a draw and it's going to go out of play. They've been aiming down the left side all day and they're going to say, wow, I haven't done that at all. That's weird. And they can't tell you why it went the way it did. But the player who's been playing for 10 years, they may snap hook a ball left out of bounds and they get up to the next tee box and they have expectation they're going to hit that baby cut again. Why? Experience. That's why. They know why something happened. They can figure out what was actually happening. Okay, I did this, I did that. When I do this, this happens. And that's part of the reason why you see some of the game's best third basemen, some of the game's best shortstops, right? Andrelton Simmons, Matt Chapman. I know I went old school there. But a lot of those players are like, okay, I make an error. They have a baseline to come back to. They have pedigree to come back to and lean on. And that's helpful. Jazz Chisholm's doing this all on the fly. If he throws a ball sidearm and it airmails, he's thinking to himself, well, I haven't done that for 5 or 6 years, so maybe I should go over the top. So he's thinking about his mechanics. He's thinking about how he should be using his body to make throws, the timing of the throws, and not to make any excuses. He's still making these errors. He's still making bad throws. He just doesn't have the experience. This is why people pay so much money to players like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa to be able to play shortstop, second base, third base, because they have experience playing all these different positions. Jazz Chisholm, I have expectation he's going to make an adjustment. I expect him to be just fine. I'm not worried about it, just like you. And we have to just expect better. I think we get it.
I agree, man. I don't really have much else to say on that. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I think you did a nice job of, really explaining that further. At me next time when you're talking about me as a golfer. No, I'm kidding. But
No, I didn't say any names. I thought about it. I was like, well, I'm an experienced golfer. Jake's brand new. I didn't do it. So you're welcome.
Hey, I broke 100 and I did just start in January. So we're getting there. It took a while.
For those of you who are wondering, I'm a 6 handicap. So not to toot my own horn, but I'm experienced. What can I say?
Yeah, we're going to play golf sometime and you're going to be like, bruh. And I'm going to watch you and I'm going to be like, yeah, I don't know if I'm golfing the rest of the day. I'm just going to watch Gary swing.
I'll wait for you on the green. That's what we do.
All right. Well,
I'm not that good. I'm a 6 handicap. I'm no Scotty Scheffler. So let's not get too carried away. No one's good at golf.
Yeah. Well, so you brought this up, so I want to give you all the credit. Aaron Judge in the clutch. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. So Gary off air brought up something. We have our own like pre-production meetings essentially, but like they're very like not like it's not like a scheduled professional thing. But we'll talk, we'll chat. We're friends, obviously, so we chat and we do talk baseball. And he brought up Aaron Judge and his clutch stats. And it was interesting. And the reason he brought that up is he's not trying to throw jabs at Aaron Judge or anything like that.
Nope.
But today, grounding into a double play, like that was the game, essentially. And Aaron Judge is the best player in the world, so we're not at all saying anything to slight him. But we are talking about numbers. And Gary, tell the class what the numbers are for Aaron Judge after, I think it was the 7th inning, you said?
Yeah, so this is after the 7th inning. Obviously, it's not the same pressure as a lot of players that you think about, the Derek Jeters, the David Ortiz, right? Like those players, you talk about postseason, that's a different type of pressure. Obviously, Aaron Judge hasn't been the best postseason player, but let me say this. Aaron Judge, when you're hitting 335, that's excellent. In my estimation, he's the best player in the planet. It's not even remotely close. And to be fair to Aaron Judge, that ball he hit today into a double play was absolutely scorched. So I want to give that context for those of you who missed it. But Aaron Judge, he's hitting 335 this year. He is hitting 264 after the 7th inning. He has hit 6 home runs. That's not terrible, but a lot of the home runs that Aaron Judge has hit has been early in the game. Now, Juan Soto, same type of thing, right? But I guess where I'm at with this is I do believe Aaron Judge, while a lot of people view him as this complete player who's done it all, he's going to win MVP this year. He's going to blow Bobby Witt Jr. out the water. That's spectacular. We're going to be in the postseason. We should have a decent chance at it. This is the last thing I think Aaron Judge needs to. This is the last thing I think he needs to check off. Clutch hitting. We're not saying he's doing nothing, but he needs to get into October and we need to get to a point where he's the player that we want up there. Very similar to what Boston had with David Ortiz, very similar to what we had in New York with Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter wasn't our best player in New York, oftentimes, but Derek Jeter was very clutch. He was very opportunistic, and I think Aaron Judge physically has every tool in the toolbox to be way better than a lot of those players I just mentioned to you in October. He's just got to go do it now.
No, absolutely. And I mean, people got on Alex Rodriguez for his October hitting.
Yeah.
I will say it's always been overblown, like his struggles. I mean, he started off, with Seattle in 1997, 313. Then he hit 308. Then he hit 409. Then he hit 421. And that was his first series with the Yankees in 2004. He hit 421. He had a 1,200 OPS. Then the next series against Boston, he hits 258, still has an 895 OPS. And then the series against in 2005, the series against the Angels, he hit 133. The series against the Tigers, he hit 0.071. And then, with Cleveland in 2007, he hit 267 with an 820 OPS. After that, and we saw it 2009, 455, 1,500 OPS in the ALDS against Minnesota, the ALCS against the Angels, 429, 1,500 OPS back-to-back. He had 1,000 slugging the series before. And then in the World Series against Philly, he hits 250, but he has a 973 OPS. He's still at 273 in 2010. He had the 190, series against Texas, 111, 125, and 111 to wrap up, his career. But I mean, more often than not, I would say A-Rod was a better postseason hitter than given credit for. My point in bringing that up is that people always, because it's the Bronx and it's the Yankees and they're held to this really high standard. And A-Rod, when he went, he went 421 batting average in 2004 and, had an 895 against, the Red Sox. No one really looked at that and was like, that's acceptable because they lost to the Red Sox. So people took it out on A-Rod. And so then you look at the next year and he has a 133 batting average, like I mentioned earlier, against the Angels and 071 against Detroit. And that's 2005 and 2006. So what happens? Do you punch back or is that who you are? And
very
A-Rod
clearly he
punched
did
back.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The reason I bring that up is because Aaron Judge has to do the same thing. And we've already seen the example of A-Rod being able to do the same thing. And again, I think A-Rod's a much better postseason hitter, even before those struggles, than people ever gave him credit. Aaron Judge kind of has some similarities here. The reason I'm going to say this is this. 500, obviously one game in 2017 against Minnesota, the play-in game. 500, 1850 OPS, whatever. 0.050 against Cleveland. 250 against Houston with over 1,000 OPS. And then that one game against Oakland in 2018, the play-in game, he had 667, 2,700 OPS. Obviously, that's just one game. The Red Sox series in 2018, he hits 375 with almost a 1,200 OPS. The ALDS in 2019 against Minnesota, he hits 333 with an 872 OPS. The next series, the ALCS against the Astros, he gets very scrutinized, 240, 681 OPS. And then following that, the Guardian series, right? He has a 111 batting average in 2020 with a 717 OPS, then 143 against Tampa Bay and a 637 OPS. Then in 2021, the wild card game, he only has one game, so he goes 1 for 4. And then you have 2022, where against Cleveland, he has a 738 OPS and bats 200. And then against the Astros in the ALCS, he has a .063 batting average and a 180 OPS. He went 1 for 16. Okay, so look, Aaron Judge has a career 211 batting average. He has a career 772 OPS in the postseason. So what you're saying is absolutely fair. It's fair criticism. The last time Aaron Judge was in a postseason series, he played 4 games. They got swept. And a big reason is because number 99, their big player, their MVP that year, hit .063 against the Astros. If he had done more, they probably win some of those games, one of those games, 2 of those games maybe, extend the series, who knows. But when you don't have Aaron Judge, doing anything in your lineup, it causes strain. What I will say is this: wild card, 300 batting average, 1,200 OPS. ALDS, he's got a 198 batting average and a 719 OPS. And ALCS, he has a 200 batting average and a 703 OPS.
You don't get to World Series by playing like that as your best player. So it just doesn't happen.
This is when you can change it. This is when you can change it. And by the way, right around this age is when A-Rod did that. So
yeah,
like I said, I still stand by it. A-Rod was a better postseason hitter than given credit for. People like to play the blame game. That's why if you win World Series, there's no blame game. You don't win.
You don't have to worry about it.
You don't win to you lose to the Red Sox of all teams in 2004. I mean, it's the blame game. So,
yeah, can I say one thing about Alex Rodriguez and the comparison between, because this is a success story, and I've mentioned before on this show, you need to be successful in New York once, and then we worry about winning multiple championships. We don't worry about winning multiple first.
Yeah.
CC Sabathia, seen as a success. He's done one thing huge for the Yankees, right? You go win one title, you're a legend forever. He's been living there ever since. He's a legend in New York, always will be. Alex Rodriguez, let's bring it back to him. He had a moment against, and this is the moment where it just changed the entire trajectory of what he was doing in pinstripes. That at bat he took in the bottom of the ninth against Joe Nathan. We're down 2 with nobody out in a 3-1 count. Pre-pitch, Alex Rodriguez knows one of 2 things can happen here. The postseason is a short sample size. I'm going to get all the blame. I'm only going to get a couple of at-bats to make a difference here and change the way I'm viewed in pinstripes. He knows he's been fine in the postseason, but he's never been A-Rod in the postseason. And in this moment where he could have just rolled into a double play and it could have been more of the same, he would have essentially been feeling all the pressure. He hits a 2-run jack to dead center field. Changes everything. Flip that entire game on its head. We go and win the game. And ultimately, Alex Rodriguez was huge down the stretch all the way through the postseason. I know it kind of got overshadowed by Hideki Matsui and what he did, but let's not forget, Alex Rodriguez played every day. He wasn't sitting in those Philadelphia series the way that Matsui was, right? Because he was playing third base. It goes to show you, it can all change and just be turned on its head in one series. We can go play Baltimore in the championship series or Houston. I expect to go see Houston, the championship series. I really do. And when that happens, Aaron Judge needs to be Aaron Judge. I don't need to see you go hit 500, but when the opportunity rises, there's going to be one moment late in the series where Aaron Judge is going to have to put his cape on and be what we saw Alex Rodriguez be in the 9th inning. And yes, it is very nitpicky. It is very much, well, it almost seems unfair that there's that much pressure on one player. Well, Jake, when you signed a $360 million deals, $300 million contracts, this is the side effect that comes with it, which are expectations to deliver when it matters. We pay you a lot of money to do it. I expect him to do it. He's just got to go out and finish it now.
No, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, and then we kind of piggybacked that onto like the postseason, because I think people like hearing about the postseason. And I mean, let's be honest here. Like, the Yankees are going to be in October. They're going to be playing baseball in October, regardless of what happens the rest of the year. I just don't see them absolutely collapsing. You know what I mean? So they're playing October baseball. The question is, how far are they going to get when they get to October? And I think a big, see, if like I said, A-Rod, if Jeter, good Lord. If
they're on the team, I'll be pretty excited. I don't know how well they'll play anymore, but yeah. I'll be excited. It'll reset. Well, Jeter doesn't need it, but it'll reset some Hall of Fame votes, which would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. Anyway, what I was saying is Judge, if he hits like he did the last 2 outings in the playoffs, the Yankees are going to be an early exit.
Yeah, we're toast.
So, yeah. I mean, I don't care who steps up. I mean, you have to have Aaron Judge being. If he's not Aaron Judge, he has to be somewhere in between not being Aaron Judge and being a good baseball player. I mean, that's really what it comes down to in the postseason.
It's that way for every other team. Yordan Alvarez has to play well. George Springer and Altuve, Bregman, those names that you guys see in the World Series every other year, the big names come to play in October. It's like you see the same guys and you feel like, why am I watching the same story over and over again? Well, it's because their best players have established themselves in October. They trust themselves that they're going to play well. And every time the lights get brighter, they know we're going to impose our will. Well, Aaron Judge is better than all those players combined.
Yeah.
Go out there and show it to us. We're not just going to be waiting around for Aaron Judge to do something. He's going to be put into a situation where he's just got to be himself. If he does that, I have all the expectation in the world that we can go win something. I'm not thrilled about our overall roster. I don't think this is a great team. But Jake, I mentioned off air and in previous episodes, there are no great teams in baseball this year. The great players are going to have more of an impact on the postseason this year than any other year you've seen. And that's what's so exciting for me. And hopefully that works in our favor. That's
a great point. It's almost like if you had to be any team, you'd want to be the Yankees, the Dodgers, teams that have stars. Obviously, if Judge hits like he does right now in the postseason, I think the Yankees have a very real chance of winning the World Series. Let's move on to, the end of the game. Then we'll give updates on minor league players. One minor leaguer
into that pinch hit situation that we didn't capitalize on for whatever reason.
Well, okay. So is Oswaldo Cabrera going to get opportunities, or is he just how doesn't it feel like he never plays? Like, he hits well and then he doesn't play. And it's like people will say, well, Jazz plays third. I'm like, okay. So what about first? Well, LeMahieu plays there. Well, I don't think LeMahieu's good there. Well, Cabrera's small. Cabrera's not small, and Cabrera's played 9 games there. Okay. I'd rather put Cabrera at first. I don't really know what we're doing at this point. I have to be honest with you here. LeMahieu is in a below average defensive first baseman. Below average. I think at this point Rizzo's better. I'm going to say that right now. Also, Rizzo is a former Platinum Glove winner, so it's not like he was terrible there anyway. He just over time has kind of lost it. But maybe him coming back, he actually hit a home run today, went yard in his second rehab assignment. Maybe him coming back refreshed, maybe he'll be a better player. Who knows? But I can tell you right now, LeMahieu's not a good defensive first baseman. And it's just an absolute head scratcher why, he's even in there over Cabrera. But especially 9th inning, you cannot afford to put the ball on the ground. Now, LeMahieu didn't. He popped out. But still, it's frustrating, Gary, because, you have people out there who are going to these games. I mean, you saw the Yankees fans in attendance, even though it's Washington, D.C. You know how the Yankee fans travel very well. And you have Yankee fans going out to Washington, D.C. to root for their team. And they see DJ LeMahieu in a high leverage situation. And it's frustrating because Cabrera, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. We saw that guy have an OPS over 900 and get benched.
You're not wrong. And let me say this. Baseball, do you remember in elementary school when our teachers forced us in math class to play the probability game and you flick the spinner and you say, okay, he hit a home run or he hit a double? Okay, that's really what Aaron Boone does for a living. He plays games of probability. Teacher. You're a math teacher. You go out there, you see DJ LeMahieu stroll up to the plate with 1 out, it was 1 or no outs, with a man on first base.
He said he liked the matchup versus Finnegan. I wanted to put that.
Perfect. I'm super glad we heard it. Most often, probability, okay, remember the chart of probability. What's the most likely thing that DJ LeMahieu is to do? He is to hit a ground ball, okay? Now, he eventually just popped up weakly, and it obviously didn't occur, but there's no reason to see a player on your bench who right now in Cabrera is a better hitter offensively. He's playing better right now than DJ LeMahieu is. He also is more fleet of foot. So in the off chance that there is a ground ball hit, which there's a very decent possibility Cabrera also could hit a ground ball. I mean, he's not the greatest hitter in the world. He's probably closer to league average. He can run and possibly beat out a ball that you desperately need to beat out. If DJ LeMahieu hits a ground ball, it was a double play. Just the same as Giancarlo Stanton hitting a ground ball. It is 2 outs. So I didn't understand when Aaron Boone says this is the best matchup that we had. And I'm looking at Yes Network pop up all the different matchups there could possibly be. Everybody thought, oh, Cabrera. Everybody. When you saw the name on the screen, you thought, lefty, he could come up, he can run. Cabrera should be up in this situation. Everybody thought it, and yet they said, they're going to leave in DJ LeMahieu. The reason the broadcast was saying that, and obviously I can't wait to have Michael K back on the broadcast, they're saying that because they expected something to happen as well. So when the broadcast says, wow, that's a surprise right there, not to see somebody come off the bench, that means something's wrong. And that's the way we should take it. It's the way I took it. I thought Aaron Boone just kind of went with his gut instead of numbers and expectations. And I can't say it cost us because I didn't expect to win the game if Cabrera hit there, but I thought Cabrera gave us the best chance. And unfortunately, as Kanye West would say, I guess we'll never know.
I love that. All right, so let's wrap it up here. Final topic I want to talk about. We have a minor leaguer that we really haven't checked in quite a while. Spencer Jones. Remember him? So Spencer Jones is hitting 313 in the minors right now in the month of August. He's actually starting to really come on here. He's a 494 slugging, 384 on base. He's stealing bags, what have you. And so this is more so kind of taking you into our pre-production meetings, Gary and I, obviously very unofficial pre-production meetings. But Gary and I were talking about Spencer Jones, and I'd actually brought up how, while he doesn't have a lot of home runs, right? He has 14 this year. His career high is 16. Believe it or not, I'm not really worried. Even though he's 6'7" and all that, whatever. Aaron Judge, his career high was 20 home runs in the minor leagues. And Aaron Judge struck out 144 times. Now, you brought up Spencer Jones off air. Spencer Jones has struck out 173 times this year, which is absolutely a career high.
In 103 games. So obviously, striking out's a major part of his game for sure.
Yeah, I don't, me, I don't put too much of an emphasis on strikeouts. I'd prefer strikeouts over ground balls and double plays. But at the same time, that's a lot, even for me. So I think with Spencer Jones, there's good, there's bad, there's ugly. It's important to remember, though, Aaron Judge didn't come up to the big leagues until he was 25. Okay. Spencer Jones right now is 23. And I would say he's 2 years away from actually being able to come up and being a contributor on a Major League Baseball team. Now, will it be with the Yankees? Will he be traded? I don't know. But I'm not out on Spencer Jones, Gary. I'm not. I'm really encouraged by some of the months he's put together. I understand it's the minor leagues, but 312, what we're talking about with the OPS being wicked high, 384 on base for August. July, he hits 203. Okay, so not great. But June, he hit 296, a 355 on base, 546 slugging. May, not so great, 170, right? And then you have April. In April, he hit 320, 382 on base, 540 slugging. It's almost like every other month he's great. I think he's going to figure it out, Gary, but I really don't think we're going to see him ever do anything crazy in the minors, very similar to A-Rod. Keep calling him A-Rod, Aaron Judge. This is the problem when we make these comparisons. I do the same thing with Rodon. I'll call him Pavano. I'm like, damn it. I don't even know why.
And the last show you said
Pavano.
Rams instead of Yankees as well. Yeah. I actually really agree with you, by the way, about this Spencer Jones thing. I know I mentioned before we went live that
I wasn't trying to put you on full blast either, though.
No, that's fine. But I know I wasn't excited because obviously you see a 6'7" player and you want to see the power numbers right away. And I think it's fair to feel that way. I mean, I guess I'm justifying my own feelings, but when you really talk about strikeout numbers, because I know there are going to be people who, especially our audience, the way they are, they're more of an old school audience and we're the same way. We don't like seeing 200 strikeouts either. But I will tell you this, what's better to have a guy who strikes out 175 times, hits 250, hits for power, and then when he gets on base via walk, he can run? Because that's what Spencer Jones is. I think what the Yankees had too much of, and there was just redundancy, is players that hit 224, very Joey Gallo-like. If they get to first base, they're station to station on a single. They're not looking to go to third base. You're just essentially taking turns waiting to hit a home run. Spencer Jones doesn't really play that way. He essentially is just a player right now struggling with the strikeout. And I don't want people to freak out about this because there's a player on the big league roster that everybody would say, this player is extremely successful. Not only that, the way he plays, he's patient, he can draw a walk, and that player is Austin Wells. Austin Wells, you would expect that he's walking way more than he strikes out. That would be wrong. Austin Wells this year has walked 38 times. He's struck out almost twice as much. That's crazy to think about, but it goes to show you when you do make contact, what do you do with that contact? How do you play? Are you putting balls in play? Because Austin Wells is putting balls in play. He just happens when he makes his outs, it's via strikeout. That's okay. It's not the devil. to strike out. But what is the devil is to strike out and then also not be able to run. That's a problem. Or play well defensively. When you're doing one thing well, which is hit home runs, then I think people have a case to freak out about strikeouts or home runs or walks. I get it. But this player in Spencer Jones, if you watch him, he's very reminiscent of Aaron Judge. He's not going to be Aaron Judge. Nobody will be. He's a guy who's going to go out there. He has the potential to steal 30 bases in a season in the big leagues. That's pretty exciting for a team that goes station to station a lot the way the Yankees have over the years. You should hope that a player like this gets through the system. Now, are we high on him? He's not very high on the MLB's top 100. How much does it mean? Probably not very much, but he obviously is coming on. That's a good thing. We're going to have to hope that he gets called up to AAA and kind of, I don't know, they get his feet wet. We see if he gets closer next year, but I like the idea of potentially taking a look at first base for Spencer Jones, because if Soto's coming back, you got Dominguez and Judge in the outfield. Well, there's no room for an outfielder in Spencer Jones, even if he does develop. But like they said about Cabrera not being able to play first base because he's short, well, can Jones play first base at 6'7"?
I know. Is that too tall?
I just think is he too tall, or should he play small forward for the Lakers? I mean, what are we talking about? He's big enough. I'm actually surprised they're not even working on that now, given their roster construction at the big league level.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever, and I mean, I can look it up, but I don't think he's ever played first base before. And I would push back on that, and I would still say, I stand by it, Gary. I think it makes the most sense in a perfect world if he pans out an outfield of Soto, Dominguez, and Spencer Jones with Aaron Judge as your DH. When Stanton's gone, but at first base, when Stanton's still in the picture, I think that makes way too much sense. I really think a team that prioritizes so much on health is really just not doing what's in the best interest of
They're not forward thinking enough, which is interesting.
But this isn't the only thing,
so I guess we'll see.
Gary, this isn't the only thing they do though, because they do things ass backwards. So they tell us on one hand, Jason Dominguez can't come up because they don't even tell us. We just find out.
Oh, there's a log jam.
Yeah, Jason Dominguez can't come up because we want to essentially hold on to his Rookie of the Year status so we could potentially get a compensatory pick when he wins Rookie of the Year. But they literally screwed up because Austin Wells could have done that for them this year, but they refused to play him enough where he would actually beat Kowser out. I think he still has a shot. That's the thing that's so frustrating. I still think he has a shot at Rookie of the Year, and he's not going to win it because, in order to beat Kowser out with how much, love the Orioles get, he would have had to play at least 140 games, and he's not going to. So that's the
I think that ship
part.
Sailed. I think he didn't play nearly enough. Not even close.
That's my point.
I don't even think he's like
but you see what I'm saying?
Candidate now.
So
yeah, no, I totally understand.
Essentially, the Yankees, they do things ass backwards. They're like, oh, so we care about Rookie of the Year for Jason Dominguez, but we don't care about Austin Wells. Or we care about Giancarlo Stanton's well-being, but we don't care about Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge goes down, and this team's done. Dead.
Oh, yeah,
they're as good as an 80-win team, just like last year. So I don't know why they're not more like, hey, let's try to teach him first base and, try to play him there and whatever. It's like, it just seems weird to me. It seems like they focus on the wrong things. I saw Talking Yanks like, hey, what do you want us to ask Aaron Boone? I was like dying. I mean, I didn't see it until late. I typed in two things. I said, why can't Austin Wells play first base on days that he's not playing catcher? One. And two, Aaron Judge. Like, have you thought, this is what I would ask Boone straight up. As a manager that prioritizes health for players, like, giving guys days off, even double days off. Like, he loves doing the double day thing, even, coming off an off day. And
I wish my bosses growing up in work would have double days off, Thursday and Friday off. That'd be great.
Oh, I know. And, he loves that. And then he loves, giving like Stanton days and Wells days. How is, a manager who emphasizes that not considering taking Judge off his feet in the outfield and putting him at first base. Like, I guess I just don't really understand how that hasn't even been mentioned. He's never had that even in a late part of a game. Like,
Jake, I feel like the perception though, okay, here's the reason why I think people are so afraid of this idea. I believe that when you say Aaron Judge potentially could move from center field on an off day, once a week, go play first base, we'll get you like really off your feet, running around in center field, running into walls. We'll put you at first base. The stigma is that you're essentially saying you'd rather have Aaron Judge at first base than center field. And that's not at all what we're saying. He's obviously a better center fielder. But you know what? Bryce Harper is probably a better right fielder than he is a first baseman as well. But based on the roster construction, he moved over to first base. So the whole idea here is that you're maximizing the longevity of his bat, which is really why I know he robbed a home run yesterday, and that was awesome. But we don't watch Aaron Judge for what he does in the field. Every blue moon, he's going to do something special in the field, but he does something special every other day at the plate.
Absolutely.
So why would we not be more forward thinking with what we do to protect this asset? Obviously, the Red Sox could have probably thrown David Ortiz over at first base, and they were like, yeah, you're just going to come sit next to me and just swing the bat for the next 7 years. Alvarez, same thing. He could go play first base, but a lot of times they'll just have him go sit down next to the manager, go eat Big League Chew, and put a dip in. And every time we go around the batting order, go up there and do what you do best. It's the reason we pay you the big money, is to go do that. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the Yankees definitely can start looking into the future as to what they can do. I don't expect it to happen, obviously, this year, because now we're sitting in late August and the time to experiment is not now. I'm expecting the Yankees to put Aaron Judge at first base at the very least in practice during spring training next year. I really can see it. I'm sure they'll watch this show. People are watching the show. I know they act like they don't. They watch. So I can see it happening almost right away. Yeah. And I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but it does open some doors for the Yankees to get more creative, and that's a good thing.
I want more creativity with the lineup. So I think that does open up the door, like you said. So that's why I always bring it up. But more so than not, it's all about getting Judge in a position for the longevity aspect. Like, I just want him to last. You don't know how long he's going to last, and he's already getting up there in age. But if you can keep him around, say you're going to get 2 Gold Glove years, or 3 or 4 Gold Glove years out of him in center field, but you're sacrificing a year of his bat or 2 years of his bat where he has to retire earlier than he would if he played first base. I'll take the first base and average defense over the Gold Glove defense, because I think his bat means more than anything.
Yeah, I don't give a rip about Aaron Judge winning Gold Glove at all. People don't want to be Aaron Judge to try and emulate his Gold Gloves. People wanted to be you want to be Derek Jeter. You remember the jump throws, and that's all great.
Oh, yeah.
But the most important thing is you remember the fist pumps when he's Mr. November. That's what you remember.
Yeah.
You remember him against Byung-Young Kim. It's what he did with his bat. I know Derek Jeter is considered an all-time great player, and a lot of the players that we mentioned are great players overall. They're good at both things. But we wouldn't have been excited for A-Rod to just dominate in 09 if he was just making great plays at third base, but he was hitting 190. No, we wouldn't care.
No.
We care about what he did with the bat. And so I think even if A-Rod was DHing and still doing the same thing, Hideki Matsui won the MVP of the World Series as our DH. So if that tells you anything, I mean, come on now.
There you go.
The bat is the most important part of baseball.
All right, Gary, it's time.
Oh, movie time?
You have to pick a shitty movie because this was a shitty game.
I got one. So I saw a movie. It was called If. And Ryan Reynolds. It was this animation movie, and you would think that he would be animated because
the purple thing?
Yes, you would think he would be animated because that's kind of what you imagine about an animation movie. No, it was animated the way that Space Jam was animated.
No.
Okay. Yes, Ryan Reynolds was himself, and these characters were themselves, and It was the most poorly written, poorly executed cinema ever. It was the biggest waste of 2 hours. I think I would have rather just sat on the toilet and scrolled TikTok for 2 hours than have watched that film. And I paid $25, no student discount, for my wife and I to see that movie. I was offended and appalled. So no one should see that movie, but that's what this performance was today. It was appalling by the New York Yankees, and it's baseball. It's the hardest game in the world. Sometimes teams that you expect to go win just lay an egg. It's exactly what we did today. If was from Ryan Reynolds was an absolute laying of an egg.
All right, you know what to do. When you got to this point, you drop if in the comments section, preferably uppercase. You know, I don't know. It just stands out more. So yeah.
Well, it's uppercase in the film as well. So
okay.
If I just see a lowercase if, we'll have no idea what you're talking about. So
yeah,
give us some spaces. And yeah, for those of you who are our field levels, make sure you give us some mailbags as well. We enjoy doing those. Yeah, we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's very well said, Gary. Tomorrow, the Yankees try to win the series that they should have already won against the Nationals. Carlos Rodon taking on Mackenzie Gore. Now, I said this is the game that they were going to lose, and I said they'd win today. So hopefully I'm wrong and they're flip-flopped. It feels like they're probably going to be flip-flopped because they're not going to lose to the Nationals, right?
I was looking for the pack of Marlboros so I can smoke a cigarette before that game.
Oh my
I don't even know if I want to watch Rodon pitch, but Rodon can surprise you. When he's got that changeup going, he's dynamic. He's everything we want him to be. I'm looking at the changeup. If the changeup's good tomorrow, they've got some good right-handed bats in Washington, specifically Cruz. I think he can control those bats. I think he can control the game. So I'm looking forward to what he does. Obviously, if that changeup's not there, you guys can go ahead and put a fork in me. And I don't know what I'll do with my day.
That's a 55.5% matchup predictor for the Yankees' likelihood to win the game, according to ESPN. We'll see what ends up happening. It's at 6:45 p.m. on Prime Video. Gary, I know that means Stream East for you, but Prime Video for everyone else that doesn't do that.
Can I get in trouble for saying that, or should I just say, no, I do not. I never condone using Stream East on this show. We do not use Stream East. So you didn't hear that from me.
That works. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully after the Yankees win their 79th game of the season.